We're back with George, our resident kit expert. George, how are we doing?
Very good, Callum. How are you? How's the show going?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good. We had Buddy last week with the Gurkhas, and we've had some great feedback from that. So it's been brilliant. And of course, first things first, George, was it true or false? Our question last time.
This may divide a few of the listeners, but it's actually true. The interior of cricket balls used to be cubes, and you would bind them into a circle before then putting on the leather casing. I still love the idea of a square cricket ball. It might give me a better chance of hitting it.
Yeah, slow it down a little bit in the pitch for us. So George, on to this week. I mean, and you've got another topic for us. What are we talking about this week?
So this week's topic, obviously short and sharp as usual, is clothing, cricket clothing. This is a very, maybe not what a lot of people would go for, but it's something that really rattles my cage. And it's looking at the origins, going forward to now, looking at the sort of the different aspects, and maybe looking ahead at what would be a good solution, a good alternative to what's out there at the moment. That was a very poor intro, so hopefully I'll do a better job with the main event.
No problem, George. Don't you worry. I'm here to help you through. So come on then, let me know a little bit about the history of cricket kit and sort of where we've got to today.
Okay, so if you go right back, so this is well over 100 years ago. Cricket, obviously, the long format, red ball, your cricket whites, very smart, very formal. It was more about the social event almost than the sport in the sense of winning and losing. It was more about being together, shoulder rubbing, conversations, business deals, that sort of thing. It was a very smart event. You weren't like yourself right now, very smart. I'm a little bit, actually, I should have worn something better if I'm talking about clothing, really, shouldn't I? We'll swiftly move on. But yeah, it was, smart white collared shirt. It was very photo friendly. It looked really good. And you've got two areas for cricket, really, when clothing comes in. You've got the long format test match cricket, let's just say, red ball, and then you've got, say, IPL style fast, the aggressive match play, which is a lot more colourful. I'm all for both of them. I think they're really, really good. But where I get frustrated is this sort of fuzzy area in the middle, where if you look at other sports, let's say running, and the clothing that's produced for that, the amount of technology that's gone into the fibers and every single aspect of it is being considered. Whilst with cricket, you tend to end up with like the leftovers of the sports textile industry. Polyester trousers made out of a yarn that's from the same place, and it services all the different corners of the world, whether it's a 38-degree cricket day or a 8-degree cricket day like we have over here. Obviously Celsius, can't be too mean on the numbers. But that's something that really bugs me, because we play here in England. It's freezing cold most of the time, especially at the start of the year. It's wet, it's muddy. It's not always that lovely day, that everyone dreams about. Yet the clothing we get given is very thin, not particularly good from a thermal properties point of view, or potentially from a performance point of view. Obviously, you can wear stuff underneath it. You can put your base layer on, put your Nora batties on to stay warm. But realistically, I think there's definitely opportunity for some clothing. Talking myself into doing something here, but I think we need something where, why can't trousers be for cricket in the UK? They could be fleece lined. So I'm not talking thick, heavy fleece. I'm talking a thin layer just to give a thermal reflection, maintain a bit of heat. They could be waterproof on the outside or aquaphobic. You can treat fabrics to do that. So you don't have to get the fairy liquid out every time you're trying to get a grass stain out. In fact, that very point itself, grass stains, nightmare. Why don't you use, like a Teflon or, something like that? It doesn't have to be an expensive version, but there are fabrics that don't get grass stains or that don't keep grass stains. That would be useful, because I haven't got a single pair of cricket clothing, a single item of cricket clothing that's not covered in sort of skid marks, green skid marks. Obviously, that's even worse, from match activity. So that's something that really bugs me. And the shirts as well, the cut, the fit, the style. the choice of cuffs, wicket keepers, it's nice to have something that sort of is a bit more, what would you call it, ribbed, so that can go into...
You need the crimped cuff, don't you? You need it fits into the glove, and
quite often that has to be a special job. That has to be like a bespoke, item for that person. And then even with all of this saying about, okay, English clothing, it'd be nice to have something that's, better thermal properties. It's an unusual sport. You're out on a pitch, standing relatively still, and then suddenly you need to sprint like you're in the 100 meters Olympics. And that causes havoc on the body, because your muscles aren't, you see people constantly, when you watch the pros, they're always staying warm in the outfield, doing lots of stretching and stuff, because they're going to have to suddenly go off. And I must admit, I don't quite keep up with the routine as they would. And then suddenly ball's gone that way, you sprint, and then your lower back hurts, you strain a calf. What can you do to help support the body and keep it in a better condition? Because it's actually quite a challenging sport from that perspective. And even after all of that, we haven't even covered, so that's just male cricket, female cricket. That really bugs me, because the clothes that women get offered, usually it's just the hand-me-downs. It's like, well, we've got this youth size that you can have. It's not very forgiving or flattering for all of the different sort of, shapes and sizes everyone comes in. Usually the choice of fabric, there's not much stretch. There's so, for everyone, there's so much that could be done. And I think that it desperately needs a makeover. Okay, sorry. That was just a rant, wasn't it? That wasn't.
It seems to me that there's not been a huge amount of thought specifically put into clothing and why that cricket kit is designed the way it is. And I think it's great here that you highlight, George, for us that really we need to start thinking about it. And actually, there are a lot of alternatives and options that are practical and could work. And really, I guess this is my plug for one of the big cricket companies, pick it up and run with it a little bit. It certainly, there's no real excuse anymore for having subpar for your function kit, which I find really very interesting, I must admit. And it's something I'd never even considered. It's kind of like, there's your shirt, off you go, get on with it. It's never really been thought about around, the actual materials being used. I mean, the only time I've ever really got stuck into kit, and I did used to run it for a club once. I got the shirts made longer for the women's team, which was nice, and I do know that they really wanted that, and it made a big difference to how they felt bowling and being out in that field, because it was fitted to them. And I must admit, it's little things like that do go a long way in the sport. And I mean, just even now looking at how sponsors are put onto shirts is quite interesting, and the materials they use, they sublimate them onto the shirt. There's quite a lot in that space, isn't there? I mean, what would your recommendations be for a club looking into kit? I mean, especially if they're looking now, most clubs are looking at whites as well as coloured kit because their seasons are split.
As a recommendation, there's a lot of brands. Kit is a massive market because you're buying volume, rather than individual pieces. And you'll find there are companies that specialize in team sportswear that provide, the whole range of stuff. And there'll be lots of different brands available. And what will tend to happen is within a fairly tight price point, you'll have, the super cheap, which will just be, zero, no pockets, no nothing. There's minimum amount of styling, whatever that is, as possible, all the way up to something that's got a little bit more, a few go faster stripes, maybe some seams down the side of your legs. Possibly a brand name that's recognizable from a household point of view. But I still would want to challenge them in terms of the aesthetic of the design and also the materials being used. I think the fabric that goes into making cricket clothing has got a long way to go still. There was quite an interesting phase when, I'm going to get the brand wrong, but somebody put little silver dots printed on the inside of a cricket shirt so that it was like a cold contact point to cool you down in a hot climate. That was interesting. That was a good start. It didn't really go anywhere, but that was interesting. One thing as well, if you think about like a rugby top, how many people, when you go out into sort of a social environment, something that's hopefully coming back shortly, how many people do you see wearing rugby tops, like on-pitch rugby tops? and actually looking quite good in them, like enjoying wearing them because they're nice bits of clothing. And apart from maybe some of the colour, sort of T20 IPL style shirts, I've never seen anyone really, apart from if they're maybe lost or forgot, wearing anything to do with their cricket whites if they're not on a cricket pitch. And I think my challenge to that, yes, okay, the colour may not be, I'm not, I'm going to wear my all white outfit, but just a cricket shirt could be a really nice thing. It could be really a well-made bit of kit. Nice collar, nice, even just a collar stand, good fabric. You've got your club logo. It's individual, maybe to you. I just think there's a lot of other sports where people would wear the sport of choice clothing outside of the sport that they participate in. And apart from when you see people with, just like the England top, or the, Sri Lanka, India, whichever one it is, it's usually the, the coloured clothing kits that get worn. But when you actually look at them, they're usually not very well made at all. Like the quality's pretty garbage. And they're not cheap either. You're buying something, you'll pay maybe 40 quid, 50 quid for something that if this was in a different sector, if it didn't have that logo that you wanted because you wanted to have whether it's England logo, and apologies to kit producers if this is a direct dig, it kind of is. Where's the quality? What if I was in the shop and I saw that and then I saw something else that was unbranded but really well made and less expensive, I'd personally go for that because it's just better quality. I think there's some fundamentals, sorry, without this going way off, and this is completely off piece now. I think I would love to see for English clothing, I'd like to see at least waterproof or sort of water resistant. I'd like to see the ability to not have to worry too much about grass stains. What can we do there? And I'd like to see a bit of comfort through warmth, because that keeps your muscles warm. You're less likely to sprain a muscle and hurt something when you stood out on a cold April Saturday, just going, just absolutely freezing. I don't think you're allowed to wear woolly mittens, are you, when you're out there? It's not really.
No, you're not allowed to wear those, George. That would be considered in breach of the laws of cricket. That's been fascinating, really, to look into clothing, and I think it's really pushed the boundaries of what cricket kit or what we expect as players from cricket kit. Certainly, again, please write into us if you have any ideas, or if you want George to make something up, he'll do it. He'll make anyone with any designs and material ideas. If you write into cricket@berco.co.uk, and I'm sure George will be more than happy to have a little look and see what he can make up. Right, finally, George, last piece of the puzzle for this week, our true or false moment. What have we got this week?
Oh, cranky. Here's one. So the batting helmet, the cricket batting helmet, the design for that originated from horse riding, from an equestrian helmet. So the shape that we all know and recognise as a cricket helmet, that shape actually came from horse riding.
Brilliant, George. Great to see you this week, and I'll catch up with you next week. You take care, bud.
Try not to rant so much next time. Be a bit more professional. Maybe I'll wear a suit.
Yeah, think about your kit.
Yeah.